and you're going to maybe sneeze or cough, or you want to eat something because it's dinner time for some people. The mute buttons are in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. One's for the microphone, one's for the stop video. There's also controls in the upper right for speaker view or for gallery view. So you can enlarge the speaker or just see everybody at one time on the screen. Keep track of the timer. Know who the timer is, and you can scroll through the pictures if the screen is being shared, or you'll see it on the gallery view. It's also a good idea to use your own timing device if you're a prepared speaker. And if you want, you can ask for an audible cue. If you never want to join the club, you can click on the join on our website, and there's a form to fill out. We typically require 6 Toastmasters speeches, but we do make exceptions for people that have other speaking experience. We just ask you to make a 1 to 2 minute table topics type speech of why you want to join the club. Now it's show time, so I'll turn it back over to Lois, our Toastmaster of the evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jimmy Dent. You did perfect. You gave me an extra minute to spare. Okay. Good. We are going to go ahead and mute everybody. Don't forget, if you're going to be speaking, you have to unmute yourself. Welcome. I am the Toastmaster of the day, and I am so excited. But to do this role, we need some helpers. To help us with our ah counter, please welcome Asil. Asil, will you please tell us your role? Can't hear you.
My role is the R counter to record unnecessary sounds used by speaker, such as and repeated words. I will count the number used and give a report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our timer, David Carr.
Madam Toastmaster, if technology cooperates with me tonight, you will see green, yellow, and red at the appropriate times when we are doing formal speeches or later on when we're doing table topics. If technology does not cooperate, I will hold up green, yellow, or red objects to the camera.
Well, let's hope it's working for you tonight. Grammarian, Toastmaster Peggy.
My role as grammarian is to listen for the word of the day, as well as to note any misuse or awkward use of the English language. Thank you.
And can you tell us what our word of the day is? I'll give you a hint, scrumptious.
Yeah, scrumptious.
Okay. And that is delightful, excellent, and especially delicious. Our watcher, thank you, Peggy. Our watcher, Toastmaster Jim Barber.
Hi, everybody. I'm your watcher this evening. As the watcher, I am an officially designated stalker. I will be watching everybody. Look on the lookout for a particularly scrumptious video presence. I'll report at the end of the meeting. If anyone has paranoid tendencies, be careful. You are being watched.
Thank you. Our vote counter, Toastmaster Scott.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Toastmaster. My job as the vote counter is to formulate the votes after the speakers have spoken, the evaluators, and also the table topic presenters. So if you could privately send a message to me with your vote, and at the end, I'll come back with the results. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And you have it even on your name tag in case we forget. Our chat monitor, Toastmaster Nicole.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm here. I'm going to help the Toastmaster of the day by monitoring the communications that will be occurring in the chat box. If you want to save the chat, just click on the More button, and it'll enable you to save the chat as well.
Wonderful. Peggy, can you do us a favor and put the word of the day in the chat box with the definition, just so everybody has it? Thank you. Are we ready? Are you excited? Because I am. I haven't been Toastmaster of this club in a really long time, and we are going to get this started with our very first speaker, Dagmara. She is giving innovative planning level 1, mastering fundamentals, which is an icebreaker, 4 to 6 minutes. A great way to get to know someone is to get to know her deepest secrets. Oh, sorry, thoughts. I like secrets better. So let's deep dive into the things that came across Dagmara's mind during her birthday celebration. Please welcome Dagmara.
Fellow Toastmasters, my name is Dagmara, and I was born on a freezing February day 35 years ago in Poland. Anyone here was born in February? Oh, I see a couple of hands. That's great. Whether you love or you hate your birthday, you will be blowing these candles on your birthday cake, and you will be wishing for the best for yourself, for the bright future accomplishments. But we rarely reflect on how we get here so far, how we traveled, and what we already accomplished. So during this 35th birthday that I had this month, I decided to focus on my progress in life, what I achieved. And I want to share that with you. So here are the three things that I achieved and progressed during my 35 years. I learned how to love myself. I learned how to love my job. And I learned how to love people around me. So what about loving myself? That's not an easy thing, especially when you, like me, very critical. So in my 20s, I was just so focused on my work, incredibly. So any kind of mistakes that I had, I was taking extremely personally, and I was so embarrassed. It was terrible. So in my 30s, I figure out that I'm not working to please my bosses and getting accolades from them, nor praises. I'm working to become better in what I do, to master skills, and just to achieve my personal goals. And in my 30s, I really discovered that I just won my heart again with forgiveness towards myself and my failures. At the end of the day, they built who I am, and without these lessons, I couldn't even can say that I can move forward and learn something in my life. So second thing, loving my job. I'm a Facebook marketer, and I started doing that in 2009. But 10 years ago, that was the field for techies and geeks, and I'm nothing of that. So I felt like a complete idiot, misfit, because I was just surrounded by these brilliant engineers. And you know what? You know this mantra, move fast and break things. They were moving fast, and I was basically breaking things, including my computer. It was a disaster. But after 10 years, I think I just kind of succeed because I keep doing what I'm doing. And I did my 10,000 work of deliberate practice. And I think I'm just getting closer to being better in doing my Facebook marketing. And I also found a sense of purpose in my work, which I think is extremely important. And you might ask, how do you find purpose in marketing? Well, by promoting brands that you personally love and stand for 100%, like eco-friendly vegan products that I personally use and love, and I feel like I'm doing something better for our planet. So that's how I'm finding my sense of purpose in what I do. And loving other people around me. Another tough one. I'm not a terrible person, I promise, but I love them better because I understand them better. And I think what really helped me was reading psychology books. It's my huge passion of mine. And just showing empathy and showing understanding help me to understand them better, because we fear of what we don't understand, and it also is related to other human beings. So that's very true, and empathy allows us to put ourselves in other people's shoes. By the way, talking about the shoes, my daughter, 2 years old toddler, she loved taking off shoes in winter. And she did it again today, true story, -10, Montreal, windy. And, 20 years old Dagmara would probably yell at her, would be mad. But 35-year-old Dagmara just think her prefrontal cortex is not fully developed yet. What can you expect? Just calm down. So I hope you see the difference. Fellow Toastmasters, I'm still figuring out things. I don't know many of them, but I know one thing for sure. Birthdays are unavoidable. They will reach any one of you here. Once a year they're coming, and whether you like it or not. So next time when you will be celebrating your birthday, just think about my 3 cheesy hearts. And instead of just thinking about uncertain future, think about your accomplishments, what you've done. And I'm telling you, satisfaction 100% guaranteed. It will make your day even more special. You follow.
Thank you very much, Dagmara, and I loved your cheesy hearts. They were great prompts to remind us to love ourselves, our job, and others. Our second speaker, Toastmaster Therese. The title of Therese's speech is TEDx Toastmasters, New Sandbox, Endless Possibilities. Toastmasters is fundamentally about practicing speaking skills. TED Talks are about sharing ideas. TEDx Toastmasters taps into our Toastmaster skills to share ideas worth spreading. Teresa calls TEDx Toastmasters a new oratory sandbox, one with endless possibilities. Please help me welcome Therese, and this is a 5 to 7 minute speech.
Yes.
Please welcome Therese.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, imagine, you may want to close your eyes for this. Imagine an elephant with his trunk painted bright red, swinging to and fro in sync with the dancing steps of a giant orange parrot dancing on top of his head, shrieking over and over, "Let's do the fandango! Let's do the fandango!" Open your eyes. Did you see it? Could you? Yeah. Well, congratulations. You have just formed in your mind an image of something that has never existed in all of history, except in my mind, and now yours. My job as a speaker is to have one task, and that is to give you a gift, to give you an extraordinary gift, the gift of an idea. Here at Toastmasters, we focus more on vocal variety and visual aids and body language. But what about the ideas? And what is an idea? An idea is anything that changes or broadens our view of the world. I propose that we start something new. And that is, you're probably familiar with, is the idea of TED. Oops, it's coming out on the wrong side. Is that one coming backwards? Maybe. No, okay. I propose that we start something new. a TED Talk for Toastmasters. And that would marry the idea of the skills of a Toastmaster and the ideas worth spreading. Do you have ideas that are worth or deserving of a larger, broader audience than our Toastmaster family? There are TED Talks given by very prestigious people like Bill Gates, who spoke on climate change, and just the regular guy down the road, 20-something, who told a story of having a red paperclip and trading it until he traded it for a house. A real house. It's true. It's really funny. Well, a TEDx is an event put on by people like you and me. And on this weekend, there were 42 TEDx events on Saturday, February 23rd, around the world. I have to say that for a while there, I was a TEDx junkie, but I've been in recovery. Although I sometimes do still have some flashbacks of some TED events that I have watched. One particular one that I was thinking of as I was thinking of talking to you today is one about a bus stop and about people sitting on a bench at a bus stop. And this man spoke about Norwegians. But first, let's say, on this bus stop, would you think that maybe there could be at least one other person that could sit on this bench? I think so, maybe two. But if you were in Norway, or if one of those people are Norwegian, they would say the bench is full. So let's say that I go and I sit down in the middle. Well, the person who's from Norway would now feel like uncomfortable and might stand up and pretend and play with his phone as though it wasn't me that caused him to stand up. And you wouldn't think anything of it. But what if I were wearing a hijab? Or what if I was wearing a red Make America Great Again hat? Could I think that maybe it has something to do with the way I look or what I'm wearing? I like TED Talks because they expand the way that we see the world through sharing ideas, that magical gift. I recommend that we start a TEDx Toastmasters so that we can share ideas that are deserving a broader audience. I want to ask you, can you see yourself on a TED stage? Yeah, me too. I think the TED stage is just a bigger sandbox, a newer sandbox for us to experiment with endless possibilities. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Therese. I myself love the TED Talks, and I love the idea of Toastmaster Talk. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Deborah Carr, are you still having problems with your computer? You're frozen in such a beautiful position. Okay, would you like us to have Elaine evaluate Magda for you?
It might be better because I don't know if you can even hear me or not. And so do that. And then what I will do is email Magda my part.
That would be wonderful. Elaine, you are ready to be Magda's evaluator, correct? Is that a yes? Thumbs up? We can't hear you. Perfect. Then let's go to
the occasion. Yes.
Thank you very much. Let me introduce Magda. The title of her speech is Truth in Advertising, please. Murmurs in the memory box. Over years, Magda collected a couple of pet hates. She parked these safely in her multiple possibility file in her memory box, her brain. Today, she will take the dust of some of those, sit back, and enjoy. Please welcome Toastmaster Magda.
Truth in advertising, just imagine that. Consider the following two employment ads. The first one, piano player wanted, must have knowledge of opening clams. Or an 18-year-old waitress wanted with 20 years of experience. To me, this is funny because, in my opinion, honest advertising is scarce, especially in employment advertising. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The big culprit, of course, is cliches. However, cliches are an endless source of fun for me. I want to let you in on some of my guilty pleasures when I see the following cliches in an employment ad. Hit the ground running. Think outside the box. The ability to multitask. My silent monologue is often something like this. Sir, I see you want me to hit the ground running. When I see or hear this cliche, I think about an airplane, noise, bumps, and skid marks. I feel like saying, oh yes, I can do that. And you, sir, will be left with the consequences, the skid marks. And you know where? In your pants, sir. Right from the outset, I'll have to fire you. That would spare me from the out-of-the-box requirement. Think outside the box, you say. Just where is this box, sir? Is it this box the sum total of your perplexing rules and or policy procedures? Or maybe it is the incorrect wording of this job description. The meaning of this metaphor is to think differently, unconventionally, and or to form a new perspective. When I do this, you will have ammunition to say, I'm difficult to work with because I'm asking too many questions and I analyze everything. Or when you don't have to answer me, when you don't want to answer me, you tell me that I'm disruptive. And since you don't have time to listen to my solutions, you will see me as demanding. This is not really what you want, sir. You want me to put my head down like this and just work like a machine. Is that not true, sir? What about some truth in advertising? I don't want you to penalize me in my performance appraisal, sir. When I create an outside-the-box solution to a problem and you tell me that I am cheating, I will not allow this. I would rather fire you on the spot, sir. As far as cheating goes, do you want me to do this creative cheating, this creative thinking of outside the box, outside of office hours? Because during office hours, you want me to hit the ground running. Oh, I see. I need to do this in my family time. I can just imagine telling my husband, time out, darling. No romance tonight. I need to spend my time thinking about work solutions that might get me fired. Do you see the humor in that, sir? Your requirement of thinking outside the box is a total passion killer, sir. Where is the truth in advertising? Therefore, on this point alone, you're fired. Your requirement for multitasking is another killer cliche, especially if you want to keep in mind that you want me to be fast, sir. The only multitasking humans are really good at is wasting time, being unproductive, and procrastinate because we can do it all at once. And the reason is simple. The old cognitive thinking brain is not involved. Research at the University of London found that their participants had an IQ drop of 15 points during multitasking. I repeat, 15 points. That, sir, is the same result when adults stay up the whole night smoking dope. Their IQ will drop with 15 points. That is also the IQ similar to a child of 8 years old. How's that for truth? Since you are employed here, you must be so good at multitasking. Let me pass you my skipping rope, sir. You're allowed to go and play outside. I really don't want to be managed by a boy of 8 years old. When I read your requirements, sir, I'm bemused and I think about my favorite F word, Friday. Because life is beautiful from Friday to Monday. In conclusion, sir, this is only a tiny piece of my mind. In the first ad mentioned, the employer is looking for a kitchen hand who can double up as a rather brainless piano player who's willing to use sharp objects in opening up cans. And the second ad, they want beauty and brains. There's some honesty in these ads, although we smile about it. They will get the applicants they deserve. And now about your ad, sir. Should I, in a moment of weakness, apply to your ad and succeed to the interview stage, I will tell you that I'm highly motivated to succeed. And the meaning of that is, sir, that I will hit the ground running, but I will leave you in the box because the minute I find a better job, I'm out of there. How's that for multitasking, sir? Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Dagmara. I'm glad you could tell us what's on your mind. All three of these speeches were scrumptious. Mr. Timer, could you please tell us how our speakers did regarding time?
Let's see, well, everybody qualified, and I will post the exact times in the little box here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Scott is our vote counter. Please send your votes to Scott. Our second portion of the meeting is our table topics. And Carol, we left you some extra time. Yay! Please welcome our table topic master, Toastmaster Carol Prahinsky.
Thank you, Lois. It's a pleasure to be your topics master tonight. We have a special moment. For those of you who are saying scrumptious, it's making me think of something scrumptious. Today is National Chocolate Covered Nut Day. You didn't know that, huh? Well, it's true. And so all of my selected topics are associated with some of our favorite desserts. Elaine, you get the first one tonight. First question is in this special episode of I Love Lucy. Lucy,
I am declining. Because I've been called into a role and I want to prepare well evaluating Magda.
Thank you, Elaine. I apologize. I forgot to make that correction on my notes. Bethany, you're up. I Love Lucy. There's a special episode in there. Are you even old enough to remember this episode? That's a whole nother conversation. But Lucy Ball is employed by a chocolate producer, and she and her best friend are trying to load the little chocolates into the heart shapes, and they have to be fast, and they're not. So they end up getting to eat all the chocolates, trying to force it into the little boxes in a timely manner, and their boss is getting upset, and they are getting very sick of eating chocolates. Have you ever thought about the production process for that manufacturing of those chocolate hearts? How do you foresee that if you were working as Lucy, you would do a better or not so good of a job?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. It's a good question. So if I had that kind of role that she had in that show, I think I would do not too good because I wouldn't know what I'm doing. I mean, if I had training, I don't know if I could move that fast making the chocolates. Maybe if I had a production team, we could assemble a line. That would make it easier to move it faster, and we each take a role of assembling the candies, putting them in boxes. That would go along quickly. But if it was just me there, I'd be there for like days, months. I wouldn't get sleep because I'd be too busy concentrating on putting the chocolates together, making sure they were like perfect and not messy, and making sure the quantity was good for people too. Because after all, we want to keep the customers, and chocolate is good for everyone. So we want to do that too. And maybe add in a little extra of the chocolate, make it last longer. At least give people what they want for their money. So make them come back to us. But we could do it better if we had the assembly line. But I give her the credit for that, and it's kind of a good show to watch. And I have heard of it. I have seen little clips of it too. So I know the assembly line of what you're talking about. And I think it's pretty cool how they do that. So maybe that's my goal for one day, doing that role. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Bethany. You're a woman after my heart. This is an area of my specialty, and I get rather excited about it. For those of you who don't know, I used to work at a candy plant. I worked there for 5 years making Junior Mints, Charleston Chews, Sugar Daddies, Sugar Babies, Pom Poms, which are now called Junior Caramels, Chocolate Covered Raisins, and Chocolate Covered Peanuts. Today, my next question is going out to Dan Leong. Dan, you ready?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Terrific.
sir. Here's your question. Yeah. Junior Mints, which is right after my heart, was used in a Seinfeld episode where one of the characters is trying to eat a Junior Mint, and it flies out of his hand and lands in the middle of a surgery in that patient's body. The patient gets well very quickly, and the doctor attributes it to somebody in a higher power. What's your take on it? Dan, what's your take on it?
Dear Madame Table Topic Master and my fellow Toastmasters, it's a very interesting question. It brings back a lot of memories because when I was a teenager, much more agile, I used to like to pop candies into my mouth. And I was very proud of it, actually. I used to have competitions with my friends, and once in a while I would miss. But then eventually I found that my dog actually could do a much better job catching candy with his mouth than I could. So I just decided to give up. There was no way to compete with my dog. But I could imagine that people have all kinds of mishaps with candies, not to mention having that in the operating room. Actually, at one point I was an IT professional that supported computers in the operating rooms. I can tell you a lot of horror stories or funny stories that happened in the operating rooms when the patient was totally under anesthesia. And I guess things happen, and it's important thing is that people keep cool about it and keep a good sense of humor and just continue on just so that we don't jeopardize the safety of our patients. And Seinfeld is always one of my favorite TV shows. That's a great question. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dan. I loved your comments. Yay! All right, my next question is for Pamela. Pamela, are you familiar with the Necco wafer? Well, that manufacturing plant, was located just around the corner from the plant I worked at, both of them in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, the Necco wafer, the guy who developed it, used to be a pharmacist, and he was making pills and medical pills, so that patients would get better. He decided that this was something that would convert to candy. And so he and his brother started a candy manufacturing operation. Are you familiar with Necco wafers? And what's your memories of the Necco wafers? Do you go all the way back to the time that it was pills? Up to you, Pamela.
I'm not sure if anybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I'm having a little trouble. I don't have a video, and I think I pressed the wrong button.
You're okay. Just go ahead and answer the question if you can.
And I don't have a video or sound. I'm so sorry. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Pamela.
You can't hear us, Carol. Perhaps you
Yeah,
can.
I hear that.
No.
I hear that. Rick, you're my backup. Can I go on to Rick? Rick, you ready? So,
I had to find the right
wafers. Hi, Rick.
Hi.
Are you ready? Do you need me to repeat the question, or are you ready to take it and roll?
Repeat the question, please.
Okay, Necco wafers used to be made by a man who was a pharmacist, and then he switched over to making candy with his brother. Now, that manufacturing plant was located just around the corner from where I used to work in Cambridge, Massachusetts. What's your memories of Necco wafer? Do you go all the way back to the time when it was made as pills, or is it something more recent?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. I don't recall Necco wafers as being anything other than that candy that I would get in my Halloween bag that I would separate immediately because I didn't like them. They tasted like medicine. They had that chalky kind of a thing. And I'm a chocolate guy. I like scrumptious milk and then later dark chocolate. So Necco wafers, no, never a real favorite. But I really latched on to something else that you just recently said about working in a chocolate factory. When I was in college, I scooped ice cream as a part-time job. And while it's not the same as being in like the Hershey's plant, which I'd been in before, looking for scraps of rejects, call it, the Ben & Jerry's plant used to have that as well. But we always had ice cream. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven with 32 flavors. So I will tell you that while Necco wafers were not necessarily a candy that I liked, when I ran out of all the others, it would do. It would do. And knowing that it was somewhat of maybe a medication type of a candy, it made me feel better as well. Thank you, Table Topics Master.
Well, thank you. And that was my last question. So we are going to pass it back to our Toastmaster to introduce our general evaluator. I'd like to thank Bethany, then Dan, and then Rick for their answers. We want to make sure that they were within time, and then we will send our vote over to Scott for the best table topics person. They were all within time, so send your vote for the best table topics to Scott. Thank you so much. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster. Lois.
Thank you, Carol. Wow, what great ideas and comments. And I have to tell you, I love the I Love Lucy show. I remember that show so well. Our third part of the meeting is where we actually get immediate feedback. And to explain that portion of our meeting, please welcome our general evaluator, Toastmaster Lou.
Sorry, had my headpiece on mute. I started speaking. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. As general evaluator, I will be introducing our evaluators for tonight, this afternoon's meeting, as well as providing a general evaluation of the meeting as a whole and evaluating the evaluator. So as you can see or hear, there's a lot of evaluations going on in the Toastmasters world. Each of our evaluations is 2 to 3 minutes. And by the way, I will also ask for reports at the end of my segment as well. Unless Madam Toastmaster shakes her head, we've kind of changed things up here and there. Sounds like I'm going to be doing that. Again, the evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, and we will begin with our first evaluator, Toastmaster Nick, who will be evaluating Toastmaster Dagmara. Nick, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I'm going to talk about Dagmara's icebreaker, 3 Ways to Love. Dagmara's scrumptious 20-year-old smile brought to life the story of the 35-year-old Dagmara, being calm when her daughter takes off her shoes in freezing downtown Montreal. That was the essence of the speech and a lot of the pictures that came out for me. Dagmara asked me to look at structure, clarity, and the ums and ahs. As a musical reference, I don't know whether you know Meatloaf. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Structure, fabulous, really well done. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the middle bit had a triad. Fantastic. Used props as well. Excellent. Clarity, we understood exactly what you were saying. You took us on a journey to your past where you actually started off working with Facebook with all these geeks around, but you're actually much more comfortable in yourself now and holding your own and being a subject matter expert. Fantastic. The ums and ahs, let's work on those, shall we? But I believe one of the reasons is that there was a lot of information. So I would suggest, I would recommend a little less information, be clear about what you want to say, maybe turn it into 2 speeches. Secondly, slow down. When you slow down, people listen more intently. They can cozy up to you. And also, pauses make your speech more powerful and actually hit harder at home. In terms of other things about your speech, let's have a look. In terms of props, you used them nicely, as I said. And what I really loved was when you actually took the prop and you said, I was embarrassed, and you hid behind the heart. That was beautiful, really great theater. I recommend, though, we didn't see too much of your hands. You were more like a newsreader quite a lot of the time. It was only at the end you brought them out and actually were more animated. So bring those out a little bit more. We want to see how you picked up the shoes and put them on your daughter, or picked them up, picked her up, and ran into the nearest restaurant. So we want to see more of those hands. Your eyes were fantastic. You were a little bit further away from the screen, so I don't know whether you were reading or not, but it looked really good. And in terms of the vocal variety, just add that little bit more. Maybe voices, maybe your daughter, maybe the geeks around you 15 years ago or 10 years ago. They're speaking English, but they're not speaking English. And you can actually do a little bit of a comic turn with that. In conclusion, excellent icebreaker. You are an experienced speaker, and I actually judged you on a higher standard, and I felt you've done excellently well, with lots of commendations, a couple of recommendations with the ums and ahs. Slow it down, less content, and more pauses. Mr. General Evaluator.
Lou, we can't hear you.
Sorry, did it again. Thank you, Toastmaster Nick, and thank you, Toastmaster Lois. Moving right along to our next evaluator, Toastmaster Norman, who will be evaluating Toastmaster Therese. Take it away, Norman.
Fellow Toastmasters and Therese. Therese was interested in focusing on a speech with an emotional appeal, and that resonated with our Toastmasters audience. And I'd like to start out by saying, well, it definitely did resonate. We speak not just to talk, but to generate and transmit ideas. And I think that resonated across the board. I was really impressed with the way you started and you grabbed our attention with imagine, having us close our eyes and seeing strange swinging elephants and parrots. You know, we were almost back in elementary school with make-believe, and we didn't have the Dr. Seuss hat or anything like that, but we were getting there. We really enjoyed you drawing us in and getting us to sort of be involved in the speech, not just listen to the speech. You really got us going good. As you went on and explained to us TED Talks and the TEDx and how many events, there was a lot of information, and I learned things about TED that I had not known before. It was really good to have perhaps a forum for the ideas, and I could see where you were going with Toastmasters for TEDx. One of the goals, though, was to get us emotionally involved, and it was long on information, but I don't know that I got really emotionally involved in, oh wow, I really want to do the TEDx talk. In fact, I think you have the skills to do it, the kinds of things that you worked out initially when you had us with those strange parrots and elephants. Those kinds of creative skills, and which I've seen before in other speeches, you might want to see how you could engage that sort of creativity to have an emotional hook into your audience. But overall, I enjoyed it. I can understand how TEDx for Toastmasters would be an excellent idea. I think that you will do a good job with this in the future, and perhaps this might be a Toastmasters club or an idea for a Toastmasters club that you might want to start. I look forward to perhaps even considering it as a virtual club when you get started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Norman. And finally, our third and final evaluator, Toastmaster Elaine, will be evaluating Toastmaster Magda. Toastmaster Elaine, please.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I was most pleased to rise to the occasion to evaluate Magda and evaluate and listen closely to her humorous speech on truth in advertising. She used a very interesting way of covering the topic using a contrarian conversation with the employer who would have written the speech. That was a most unusual and interesting type of device to cover the topic. She picked 3 familiar cliches in advertising: multitasking, thinking out of the box, and I forget the third one, but I'll get to that. Anyway, she used great vocal variety. She framed herself well within her box and used her hands with interesting gestures, especially about the piano player. What I particularly liked, what really stood out to me, was how she talked about thinking outside the box and kept it very interesting for us by adding the graphic with the tic-tac-toe box and the 4th thing in the line outside the box. That kept us very intrigued. What also was very, very helpful and interesting was in the last area that she talked about, multitasking. She kept it interesting by including statistics. 15% of IQ drops with functional ability with multitasking, and then linking it to smoking dope. That was great humor brought in. And for me, it was funnier than some of the references she was making in hitting the ground running. One of the things she said that I had trouble following: skid marks on your pants. Well, maybe it registered with some of you who were listening, but it kind of went over my head. Nonetheless, overall, she did a great job. She did, I think, meet her own challenge to approach a speech as an experiment with a new way. This contrarian conversation monologue did an excellent job. I would encourage her in the future to think about maybe adding a little tidbit which would invite the listeners' reflection on one of these employment cliches. And perhaps we also could have done that if she had slowed her pace down just a wee bit between segments, so we could let the preciousness and interest of each one of these 3 topics just settle in a little deeper. Great job, Magda.
Thank you, Toastmaster Elaine. Mr. Timer, did all of our evaluators qualify? If so, please put their times or I should say, whether they did or not, please put their times in the chat box.
They did qualify, and yes, I'll post the times.
Thank you, sir. And based on, wow, Nick, very close. Woohoo! Please vote for your favorite evaluator. Send your votes to Scott, who is our vote counter for this meeting. Now, I will call on, actually, I think I'll give my evaluation of the meeting before calling on our roles, since I may have a couple of ahs in there, you never know. So give our ah counter and other folks a chance to evaluate my scrumptious presentation of my general evaluation. I'm a poet, don't even know it. Okay, first, kudos to Toastmaster Lois for keeping us on track, and I believe there was a couple of things that assisted you in doing so. One, I saw an email from Roger come through that mentioned the timing, and we have a tight schedule, keep things on track. I thought that was a great idea as a reminder on his part of keeping us informed on what's going on, and of course your role with, we have some openings, etc., keeping things going. But again, kudos for keeping us on track with the meeting. I love how everyone, and I'm not sure if you suggested this early on, Lois, I may have been taking notes or doing something otherwise, but I love how everyone put their roles next to their name. Wonderful job, something we should continue to do with every meeting. Makes my job easier and the general evaluator's job easier when it comes to calling on folks. Excellent job for that. Carol, excellent topics, really enjoyed the session. I'm also a I Love Lucy fan, and I love chocolate, so excellent mix right there. One thing I would suggest is to pop the question first and then call on a, I was going to say contestant, but on a table topic speaker. That way you catch us all by surprise and make sure we're all listening to your questions. Thank you for that. This might be caught by our watcher, but just in case, I just want to point out, Dave, you were blinking several times, so I'm not sure if that was me or if other folks saw that too. It could be something with the green screen. Maybe it's my computer. All I know is a couple times my eyes flicked over to your square because I saw it blinking. Now, oh, sorry, and for our evaluators, we have such a seasoned team of not just evaluators, but everyone in our club. We're very well developed and we hone our skills continuously. So it's actually very hard to evaluate the evaluators, which is great because then that doesn't, I don't need a lot of time to do that. Excellent job with all three of them in terms of opening with an observation about the speech and closing with conclusions about a summary of how our speakers could improve. And in the middle of that, of course, are some more details on their suggested improvements and, of course, additional information on what they liked about the speech. One thing I do caution with our evaluators is something that Magda pointed out to me when I did my evaluation is a little bit too much of either what I liked or I found it impressive, something of that nature. Believe me, I struggle with that, but there certainly are other ways of rephrasing things in that regard. And also one other thing is something I'll call the regurgitation method, which is you said this, you said that, you did this, you did that. Also something that could be rephrased a little differently when presenting our evaluations to make them less monotonous. All right, moving on to our roles. We will start with Timer Dave, just to see if you have any other information to add. I know you posted everything in the chat box, but if you have any other info, feel free to share.
I think I've told you all there is to tell about time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Toastmaster David. Next is our watcher, Toastmaster Jim. What have you been watching?
Mr. General Evaluator, I've been watching everybody. A number of our members have good use of the green screen, in particular, Dagmara, Elaine, Asil, Scott, Lois, Therese, possibly others I may have missed. Special kudos to David Carr for incorporating the timing into his green screen so that we could see by his background whether it was green, yellow, or red. I did see David blink a few times, as Lou indicated. I just assumed that he was doing that on purpose, that it was intentional. The only suggestion that I have goes to Nicole. Nicole, you have great video presence. Unfortunately, you have a mirror or something behind your head so that when you're positioned it looks like a weird. There you go, right. So I don't know if you can do anything about that or not, but it's a little distracting exactly where it is. That's better when it's slightly off to the side. That's great. That's it, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Jim. I'm sorry, when my eyes went to Nicole's panel, I immediately said, oh, wow, that's an hairdo. And I realized, sorry, Nicole. Okay, very good. Moving on to Nicole, our chat monitor. Please share with us some.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I know the chat box can't necessarily be scrumptious, but the traffic was scrumptious. We had many celebrations. We had anniversary of Carol, David's birthday, and also we got the gift of praise and feedback, some technical issues, but overall, the chat box was scrumptious. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Nicole. Appreciate that. Now moving on to our scrumptious grammarian, Toastmaster Peggy. Please share with us your grammarian report.
Thank you. For the word of the day, I was very impressed with the number. It was actually used 8 times. I thought that was a very high count for a Toastmaster meeting. And I only caught a couple of slips in the grammar part. One was speakers have spoken and we already accomplished. Those sounded just a little bit off, and that's all that I found. Great job.
Thank you, Toastmaster Peggy. Our counter, Toastmaster, hopefully I pronounced your name correct, Asil or Asil? Feel free to correct me.
Yes, sir, Asil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Dagmara, I love you because you gave me scrumptious job to count your R's 31 times. And your repeated word was and. Maybe you will make different transition words. Okay, next time. And Therese, I still love you, but I could hardly find just one R in your speech. Magda, why do you have to be so perfect? No arms, no R's, anything. Good job. And table topics, Bethany, 3 arms, then 1 arm, and Rick, good job, nothing. Lou, 2 R's, Nick, 1 R, Norman, 2 R, and Elaine, 4 R's. So, back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Asil. Wonderful job. Thank you to all of our evaluators, as well as all of our helpers. Excellent job tonight. We do have one final report, which will come from our Toastmaster as I pass the baton back to her to get the final vote from our vote counter.
Thank you, Lou. I appreciate it. Scott, could you tell us our winners of the day?
I certainly can, Madam Toastmaster. Quite equivalent to a chocolate-covered nut, which has got to be scrumptious. So I thought I'd get the theme and the word of the day in. It was so close. The voting was so close. But the best speaker, Magna, just snuck through for the best speaker. So congratulations, Magna. For our table topics, another close run, very close indeed. But again, Rick just squeezed through. So congratulations, Rick. And for our evaluations, extremely close again. And a lot of people were undecided because they thought that 3 speakers, 3 evaluators were so good. But we've got to give a result. And Nick just scraped through. So congratulations, Nick.
Thank you, Scott. You held us in suspense the entire time. That concludes my role as your Toastmaster of the day. Mr. Jimmy Dent, our president, you have 3 minutes to wrap it up.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for showing up today, especially any guests. I missed in the beginning, who are our guests? We want to hear from our guests what they thought.
Rick.
Okay, Rick.
Dan
and Jason.
Well, Jason's joining on Friday, so he doesn't count as a guest.
Bethany. What did you think of our meeting today?
And Asil.
No, Asil already joined.
Oh,
good.
Satish and Rainey.
Okay, Rick, what did you think of our meeting?
Well, I'm still trying to get a hang on this online thing here. You know, 5 minutes before the meeting, I realized I had to get dressed. With that said, I enjoy the meeting. You all are very talented and hardworking at your speaking skills, your listening skills, and obviously your leadership skills. It's what I try to do in my Toastmaster experience. And I'm really getting the hang of it, and I'm enjoying this. I'm going to try to keep coming back, trying to clear my schedule. I'm already in 2 clubs, so I don't want to overcommit myself, but I am looking for an advanced group, and you guys certainly fit that bill.
Thank you. And Dan, what did you think of our meeting?
It's very impressive. I've been a Toastmaster for 8 years, so I've been to a lot of meetings, but that was definitely one of the best I've ever attended from a content perspective. As far as the technologies, you guys just floored me. You were so good with mastering the technologies. That's really impressive. The reason why I joined as a guest was to try and help one of the Toastmasters club in Michigan. They're trying to set up a virtual meetings for at least some of the meetings. And I think I learned a lot, but if you don't mind, I'd like to come back as a guest and maybe even try to join as a member if you'd like to have me. It's really my honor to be able to participate today. Thank you so much.
Well, you're definitely invited back to another meeting. Feel free to drop in and join anytime you want.
Thank you.
Satish, can you hear us? Can you tell us what you thought of the meeting?
That was great. Awesome meeting. I'm sorry, I apologize, even though I had noted the timing right, my calendar messed it up. So I am in Central Time, so I missed it by an hour. It's very impressive, like I had posted in the Facebook. This is the club that I want to join. I'm convinced. And looking forward to be part of it and contribute. A little bit background on me. I will take this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Satish. I live in Houston, Texas for the past 25 years.
Wow.
I work for Amazon, and I have 2 active boys, 17-year-old and 10-year-old. So looking forward to join the fun. Thank you.
Well, that's definitely active ages. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're definitely invited to come back and join the club if you like. Rainey, can you hear us? Can you tell us what you thought of the meeting? I don't hear anything from Rainey.
She says she can't talk now. But Dan, what part of Michigan are you from? That's a curious question for those Michiganders in the room.
Yes, I live in Rochester Hills.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, you're familiar with Michigan?
District
For
28.
oh, great. Terrific.
We're in 62, right next door.
Excellent. Oh, terrific. Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with the area, I live about 23 miles north of Detroit. And I've been in the automotive business for almost 30 years. Recently happily retired from Chrysler.
Nice.
Welcome.
All right, Jimmy, our last guest is Bethany.
Yes. Bethany, what'd you think of our meeting tonight? You're muted.
I loved it.
Great. Anything else?
One last thing. I want to apologize to Lou. I went to send him a private chat about the general evaluator, and evidently when you send a private chat, right above that it stopped their video. So I stopped his video in midstream. We couldn't get him back, so my apologies, Lou.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I want to remind everybody there's a few roles that need to still be filled for next week. And
I was freaking out. I thought, oh my God, what did I do? Did I hit a button and I couldn't turn it back on? I was like, I was ready to dial out and dial back in.
And Nicole, I was with Lou. I thought that was your hair. I'm going, wow, she's got the tallest hair.
So I recall that happened to somebody else one time too, that they had something behind them that looked like their hairdo.
I'm telling you, you just don't even realize.
That's a great side
It
effect.
was a very unique hairstyle.
I wish I can do it.
All right, Jimmy, you want to close this out?
That's
Yeah,
a great
next
side effect.
next week
of the
we need an
watcher.
odd counter, grammarian, vote counter, and the critical ones we still need a topics master and a third evaluator. So feel free to go in and sign up for a role. We also need to establish a theme for the meeting and a word of the day. So I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Great meeting, great speeches, and great participation with everybody. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.
Hey,
Hey, and if those guests signed up as members, you know, Bethany, Dan, Rick, and I know Jason's going to be signing up, then we wouldn't have any problem next meeting with filling roles. Right,
That's right.
guys?
Absolutely.
All right, just go to the join page on the website. So-
Yes, just go to that join button. Just push the join button, okay?
All right, it's the
And if
easy
there's
part.
any existing members that haven't paid their dues yet, please go in and pay your dues. As soon as you can, just click on the dues renewal button on our website if you want to pay it online. Thank you and have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.